If you want to build like the ultimate American basketball superstar today, the absolute best thing you could do might actually be to take them out of America entirely.
Yeah, which sounds kind of crazy to say out loud, but it's true.
Right. And welcome to a brand new deep dive, by the way. I'm so glad you're joining us for this one. Today, we're looking at this huge, highly debated shift happening in the sports world. We're trying to figure out why the top under 30 superstars in the NBA are suddenly overwhelmingly international. Like, are American players actually falling behind?
It's a huge question right now.
It really is. And to figure this out, we're pulling from a really robust, super detailed discussion thread from the Romba discussion community. Plus, we've got some eye-opening graphics detailing recent TV viewership numbers, individual career highs from March 2026, and a pretty dark look at the reality of modern sports betting.
Yeah, that sports betting part is, well, it's sobering, to say the least.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to uncover whether the American basketball talent factory is fundamentally broken, or if we're just witnessing the inevitable math of a truly globalized game. Okay, let's unpack this.
So, to really understand the sheer scale of the panic among American basketball fans, we have to look at who is actually dictating the terms of the sport right now.
Right.
If you look at the absolute best players in the world under 30, you've got Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, and Joel Embiid.
Mm-hmm.
Do you notice a pattern there?
Zero Americans.
Exactly. Zero Americans. For decades, the ultimate basketball prototype was, a kid from Chicago or LA or New York spending thousands of hours on a concrete court. It was this uniquely American assembly line.
Yeah, churning out the most dominant athletes on the planet. But now you look at that exact same elite franchise-carrying tier, and you have to go down to maybe number 5, like maybe Jason Tatum, to find an American player.
And even that is debated in the thread.
Right. And our sources point out that with Victor Wembanyama entering the league from France, and he's already looking like a total generational force, an American might not even crack the top 5 under 30 list for years to come.
It's a staggering reality, and you read this thread, and it is just filled with fans looking around and asking, what happened?
Because we went from this era of Kobe, LeBron, Steph Curry, KD, to this younger American generation, guys like John Morant or Zion Williamson, who are incredibly talented.
Yeah.
But they just haven't seized that undisputed dominance.
Right. It feels like a sudden cliff to a lot of viewers. But the foundational argument running through these sources is that this isn't really a sudden failure. It's actually just a demographic inevitability.
Okay, break that down for us.
Well, the U.S. has a population of about 330 million people, right? The rest of the world has over 7 billion.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Right. So as basketball's global footprint expands, finding a 6'7" athletic prodigy with elite hand-eye coordination is statistically just way more likely to happen overseas. It's just a sheer numbers game.
See, I was trying to wrap my head around this demographic shift, and I keep coming back to this analogy. It's like if finding a generational talent is like winning the lottery, the U.S. used to basically hold all the tickets.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. The scouting pool was almost entirely domestic. But now, the rest of the world is playing. They've walked up to the counter and they're buying billions of tickets.
And this is a really crucial piece of nuance raised by one of the top commenters in our source thread. We cannot let ourselves oversimplify this into a neat little foreign development versus U.S. development narrative.
For sure. It's definitely not that black and white.
It really isn't, because look at Giannis and Embiid. You can't just slap an international product label on them and call it a day.
Why not?
Because Embiid actually played a significant portion of his developmental years in the American high school and college systems. And Giannis came to the NBA incredibly raw. He developed his MVP-level skills working with American trainers inside an American franchise. Oh, wow. Okay, so it's not purely a story of European soil magically producing better players.
Exactly.
So if it's not entirely about where a player is from, it must be about how they are trained once they get discovered, which really brings us to the systems building these athletes.
Yes. And this is where the source material levels a pretty devastating critique at the American system, specifically focusing on AAU, the Amateur Athletic Union.
The famous AAU circuit. I mean, it gets so much criticism.
It really does. According to the discussions we're looking at, AAU has basically morphed into a massive profit-driven machine. The entire incentive structure is focused on individual exposure, nonstop weekend tournament games, and building personal brands for teenagers.
Right, which means practice is taking a huge backseat.
A massive backseat.
One commenter was saying, it's like teaching a kid to play a shredding guitar solo before they even know how to tune the guitar. They're playing, what, like 6 games in a single weekend?
Easily 6 games, yeah. And they're just constantly performing, trying to get on a highlight reel for social media, but they aren't drilling the boring, fundamental mechanics of the game.
Because practices don't generate ticket sales
Uh-huh.
or viral clips.
Exactly.
But contrast that with the European and Australian club systems mentioned in the sources. They focus on rigorous fundamentals, team play, and crucially, practicing far more than playing meaningless games.
The sources specifically highlighted the Australian model, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah, that was a great example.
In Australia, kids play for low-cost regional associations. They keep the same coaches for years, and they are bred to be unselfish role players. Contrast that with the U.S., where one commenter actually called out Jaylen Brown.
Oh, right, the left-hand thing.
Yes, they pointed out that he allegedly spent years in AAU playing all these games, getting massive exposure, but somehow made it to the pros without ever mastering fundamental skills like dribbling with his left hand. Because in AAU, if you have a weak left hand, you just use your top-tier athleticism to bypass it. Nobody stops the game to make you drill it.
Yeah, the structure enables the flaws. But, we have to look at the flip side, too.
Well, yeah, I do want to push back a little here, because is AAU really all bad? One commenter made a really great point that I want to bring up. They argued that the U.S. still produces the absolute best 14 to 17-year-old basketball players in the world, bar none.
They definitely do.
So is the real issue that America stops teaching them once they get the spotlight, while international teens are basically forced to go play against grown men in professional leagues?
What's fascinating here is the psychological and tactical difference in how these kids have to adapt.
Tell me more about that.
Well, when a 16-year-old European kid joins a pro club like Real Madrid, they have to adapt to an adult system. The coach isn't risking his job for a teenager. That kid learns to set screens, pass, play team defense, or they sit on the bench.
Right. Meanwhile, American high school coaches often tailor their entire team around their one-star player. They essentially hand a 16-year-old the keys to the franchise.
Exactly. And because of that, they never learn how to play off the ball. They don't learn how to be a decoy or read a defense from the weak side. So when they reach the NBA and their physical advantage evaporates because everyone is athletic, they hit a wall.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So we've got the math and the structural differences, but I want to transition to who exactly is falling behind. Because the U.S. is still producing incredible young guards and wings.
Oh, absolutely. Guys like John Morant, Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards, Trae Young.
Elite talent. But the dominant, game-changing big men, Jokic, Embiid, Sabonis, Gobert, they're almost entirely international.
Yeah, the positional gap is glaring.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Our sources introduce this incredibly surprising connection to explain this. Soccer.
Yes, I loved this part of the thread. International bigs very often start out playing soccer. And if you think about it, a kid who ends up 6'11" usually isn't a giant at age 8. They play soccer like everyone else.
Right, and soccer develops this incredible footwork and agility.
Yeah.
You're learning spatial geometry and passing angles using your feet.
Exactly. And historical precedent backs this up. Legends like Hakeem Olajuwon and Steve Nash both credited their elite basketball footwork directly to their youth soccer experience.
So when Jokic is operating the post, he's calculating passing lanes that American big men who just relied on upper body strength as kids literally don't have the neural pathways to see.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the NBA itself has fundamentally changed. It has fully embraced a European style of play focused on spacing and three-point shooting.
Right, the game has evolved. But I do want to bring up some impartial reporting here, because there was a really heated debate in the sources about this shift.
Oh, the cultural tension in that thread was palpable.
It really was. And just to be clear, we aren't endorsing either viewpoint here. We're simply conveying what was argued in the source material. But one commenter claimed the league intentionally moved away from an urban game based solely on pure athleticism and physicality toward this European style.
And that sparked a massive firestorm.
Huge. Another user immediately called it out as blatant dog whistling, which perfectly illustrates how these discussions about sports and development are deeply intertwined with cultural and societal tensions. It's rarely just about basketball.
It really isn't. And that tension brings us to the second big hypothesis from the source. Does American youth culture breed players who are less hungry?
Yeah, the sources pointed to incredibly talented young Americans like Zion Williamson and John Morant, who have struggled with work ethic, off-court issues, and injuries.
There's this perception that they rely on pure athleticism rather than developing technique. But, we also have to look at the dark side of the modern off-court environment.
Yes, the visual sources showed us the intense, often toxic pressure cooker American players face today.
It is so toxic. We looked at a horrific text message sent to a player's wife.
God, this was hard to read.
It really was. The text literally read, and I'm quoting here, "Hope you both die in a car crash."
Just awful.
And why? Simply because her husband didn't score 10 points in a game.
10 points.
Yeah.
And this toxicity is driven directly by the explosion of sports betting.
Absolutely. Fans aren't just watching to see who wins. They have money on the exact number of points or rebounds a specific player gets.
So I want you, the listener, to imagine being a 19-year-old kid in that environment. How do you focus on fundamental development when you're navigating death threats from angry bettors?
You're a millionaire brand under a microscope.
Right. Compared to a European kid developing quietly in a structured academy,
Yeah.
the mental toll is just night and day.
It really is. But the bottom line here, despite all these developmental hurdles and the toxicity, is that the NBA's global strategy is an absolute triumph.
The numbers are undeniable.
Yeah. Citing a recent Richard Deitch tweet from our sources, the NBA All-Star Game pulled in an immense 8.8 million viewers across NBC networks. That's the largest since 2011.
And it completely dwarfed the competition. The 2025 MLB All-Star Game only had 7.2 million, and the 2026 Pro Bowl had a measly 2 million.
The global product is booming, and the on-court product is still electric.
It's insane. The graphics we have from March 2026 show these mass performances, like a 54-point career high one night and a 17-assist career high the very next night.
The talent level is just off the charts right now.
So what does this all mean?
Well, I think it means the American basketball system isn't dead, but it has definitely lost its monopoly.
Yeah, it's a complex cocktail now. You've got global population math, competing philosophies like AAU versus European academies, and the immense pressure of American sports media and betting.
And for you listening, this is honestly the ultimate case study in globalization.
How so?
Well, being the inventor and early dominator of an industry does not guarantee a permanent monopoly once the rest of the world adopts your methods and improves upon them.
That is such a fascinating way to look at it. And it actually leaves me with a final provocative thought for you to ponder today.
Already?
If international players are dominating largely because their academies force them to compete against grown men and face real adversity at age 15, what does it say about our American educational or corporate pipelines?
Oh.
Right. If we keep insulating our top young talent from high-stakes, real-world environments until their early 20s, are we just stunting their growth in the exact same way?
That is a brilliant question. It really makes you think about how we develop talent in general.
It really does. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Keep asking those big questions, and we'll see you next time.